power will fall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. We have a really fascinating guest tonight, a great musician that I just got turned on to a handful of days ago, a fellow by the name of Jalan Crossland. He's playing at Crooners tonight at 7 o'clock. He's got a lot of stuff on YouTube you can check out. He's a really good guitar player and singer-songwriter. We're going to listen to some of his music tonight, and you will be learning about Mr. Crossland at the same time as I will, because this is our first conversation. Jalan, how are you tonight?
You know, I'm feeling all right today. How are you?
I felt better, but I'm powering through. But I've really enjoyed listening to your music. I love your guitar playing and your banjo playing. I'm a bit of a guitar player myself, so I was very fascinated with your left-handed guitar style. And I was looking at one of your videos. Do you have a thumb pick on the banjo video I was watching? It looked like you had 4 finger picks, or was I saying things?
Oh, I have 3 finger picks, which is one more than is probably necessary. Most banjo players use 2 finger picks and a thumb pick, but it gets used time and again. And also when I'm doing like tapping on the neck of the banjo, it gets used a lot.
Now
it can also serve. I tend to blow banjo picks. They go flying across the stage a lot too, so it gives me one extra to slip over to another finger.
There you go. Good idea. Did you win awarded a Winfield finger picking championship in the late '90s? Correct?
Yeah. I got 4th one year, and I went back and got 2nd, and then couldn't bring myself to compete anymore after that. I'm not a big competitive guy, you know, so didn't want to go try again.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, you've obviously been playing for a long time because you're really good. When did you pick up the guitar?
Oh, it started when I was 13. Because, you know, adolescence, getting into school, you got to meet girls somehow, and guitar seemed like the only possible avenue I could have. Because I was a total nerd. So, and after just a little while playing it, realized I really loved doing it. So I've done it ever since, and for a living since I was 17.
Who are your first guitar influences, Jalan?
I mean, starting out, I was listening to rock and roll and heavy metal and stuff, you know. I was 80s, and so, like, guitar heroes were guys like Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen and the guys from Judas Priest and, you know, Tony Iommi from Sabbath. Those were, like, my first influences on guitar. But I'd grown up in a family of old-time bluegrass music and mountain music, so that was always something that I knew that was in my background as well. So at some point, went back to my roots playing that kind of music.
When did you start finger picking?
That must have been the mid to late 90s. I'd been a flat picker, and at some point I started hearing guys like Chet Atkins and Doc Watson and all these guys who had the bass lines going, you know, with the melodies at the same time and stuff. And that just sounded like, that confounded me. That sounded like magic. I didn't know how they did it. And so I decided I was going to set out and figure that out. So with much effort for a number of years, I figured out how to do it.
What, when you played it in Winfield, were you in the flat picking category or finger picking?
It was finger style.
Wow, and you'd only been playing for a handful of years, and you placed 4th. That's not too bad. And then to place 2nd a while later, congrats. I don't know if you've ever heard a great Twin Cities-based fingerstyle steel string player named Tim Sparks. He
Haven't
he
heard of
won that. I studied with him when I first moved to Minneapolis in the late '70s.
him.
Definitely check him out if you can. The guy is just an amazing, not only amazing player, but a composer as well. Now, have you ever played Minneapolis before?
You know, a long time ago, and I don't even remember when it was, but I came to town and made a record with a friend there who has a recording studio, and played at Lee's Liquor Lounge while I was there.
Oh, sure.
That was the only time I ever been there.
What?
And I thought
Whose studio?
it was, pardon?
Whose studio was it?
His name's Steve, and right now I'm drawing a blank on his last name, but God, we've been friends for years. But I can't think of the name of the studio either. It's been so long.
Well, you've been friends until he hears this interview, anyway.
Yeah, right. I can't remember his last name right now, but he's coming to the show on Sunday. It'll be good to see him.
Now, what were some of your songwriting influences?
Oh God, songwriting. Songwriting came along a little bit later because I was always just a mercenary guitar player for quite a long time, just playing with any band who needed a guitar hand. At some point, I started wanting to do my own thing, which meant you had to write songs. Influences were probably, the usual suspects: Neil Young, Tom Waits. That's for the more folk rock sound, and then I was inspired by John Hartford and for like old time, the more of an old time cheerful sound.
Yeah.
John Hartford gave a bunch of freedom just to be silly with your songwriting and not have to think it too hard. God, there's lots of others. Of course, Guy Clark is a big influence.
And I got a kind of a John Prine vibe off your stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, John Prine's great. I love his stuff. And oftentimes when I'm writing songs, I think that if I run up against well, how do I do this? And I think, well, how would John Prine handle this? Or how would Tom Waits handle this verse? They probably wouldn't overthink it like I'm doing.
When I was after John Prine died a few years ago, I sat down. I was going to write a song like John Prine, and I beat my head against the wall, and realized a few hours into it that, well, John Prine can do it, but I'm not John Prine.
Yeah, right.
But
he's a great influence. What a fun, avant-garde songwriter,
Oh yeah, and just
and what a big heart. He just writes with so much heart.
He certainly does. Not long after he passed, a buddy of mine and I started a campaign to get John Prine his own United States Postal Service stamp because he's started out as a mailman. So if people go to johnprinestamp.com, they can find the petition. We've got over 4,000 signatures. When we get to 5,000, I'm going to present it to Fiona Prine, John's widow. And if we get the A-OK from her, we're going to pass it on to the United States Postal Service because there's nobody that deserves a postal stamp more than John Prine.
I think it's a fabulous idea.
Well, tell your friends.
I hope that works out.
Yeah. Well, it's we dummied up a couple of what the stamp could look like. So go to johnprinestamp.com. Tell your friends. Now, where are you based out of? Let's start there.
I live in a little town at the foot of the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming called Ten Sleep, like the number 10, SLEEP, and it's population 200. And it's my hometown. I got 4 generations here and still live here now. So pretty little spot, middle of nowhere. We're 70 miles from the nearest interstate, and it's on the other side of the mountain. So pretty secluded little spot, but I like it a lot here.
Do you have a family, Jalen? I mean, wife and kids?
Nope. Nope. The only surviving blood family member is my mom and my uncle.
Wow. Well, you really tour around a lot in that area out there, the Dakotas and Wyoming, and where else do you play?
Well, I've played just about all the states in the Union, and haven't played Alaska yet or Hawaii, but I've played just about everywhere, at least once or twice. Coming out of Wyoming, it's this is just kind of like the hub of the wheel, where the farther it is away from here, the less I get there. But I try to get everywhere. And I've toured Australia and toured a few countries in Europe. So just the farther from Wyoming it is, the less I get there.
Right.
I guess my main, the regional states, 6 or 7 states around Wyoming are the stuff I do all the time. So
we've got Jalen.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Pardon?
We've got Jalan Crossland on the Wall of Power Radio Hour tonight. He's performing at Crooners out there in Fridley on October 1st. We're going to listen to a song of his. We're going to start out with Trailer Park Fire and be back with Jalen for the whole show tonight on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
And Sherry, thank you so much for inviting me to town. I appreciate it. This is a good little party you put on for all of us.
Welcome back to the second set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa, fighting a bit of a cold tonight, but we're going to power through. Our guest for the whole show, musician, guitarist, and banjo player, Jalan Crossland from Wyoming, and really enjoying speaking with this cat. You've spent, kind of on the break, you said you've played in all 50 states, with the exception of Hawaii and Alaska. Who do you book yourself, or you got a good booking agent?
These days I book myself. I've had a number of managers and agents over the years, and I don't know, all great people, and we all get along great, but I'm not sure that any of them really were able to further my career a whole lot more than just what I do. So, no one wants to succeed more than yourself, right? So,
yeah, for sure. And plus...
So, yeah, I do all my business. I handle the whole operation now.
Wow. Well, let's tell... What's your website, Jalen? Let's let the folks out there know how they can track your stuff down.
This is my name, JalanCrossland.com.
So, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. You get a good buddy that's got some organizational skills. You ask them to help manage and book you, and then you realize that, that 15 to 25% for the management and booking you're better off putting in the gas tank, even though they mean well. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I give you a lot of
mostly
credit.
I want to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, yeah. Mostly I want agents and managers to, further your career, take you places and open doors you haven't done on your own, but just have never had them be able to do that for me. They wind up booking me in all the places I already play, So
Right.
um,
Tell us about some
right.
of the. You've really played with a lot of great musicians. Tell my audience what kind of musicians you've shared stages with, because it's a wide variety of folks.
Well, having been in this playing music for so many years, I've had opportunity to open for a bunch of my heroes. Open for Taj Mahal and John Hartford. I got to do 2 tours opening for Robert Earl Keen.
Wow.
2 national tours. And gosh, who else? Steve Earle. I've played with so many people, either opening for them or on festival bills, It's great to get to meet your heroes backstage, That's always really fun and interesting. Sometimes it sucks.
Yeah.
You're like, I wish I wouldn't have met that guy in person, but it's always pretty neat.
My first when I put out my first record album, Paper Tigers in '84, I had the pleasure of opening up for Taj Mahal, who was a huge hero of mine, at the North Shore Theater right here in Duluth. And so I did my 35 minutes or whatever it was, went pretty well. Then Taj came out, did about 2 hours and a half. He went next door to play with his old buddy and my friend. I don't know if you ever heard of a great musician, blues cat named Dave Snaker Ray. And so Taj went next door to this coffee shop where Dave was playing, sat in with him for about an hour and a half. Then we ended up at the party up in Central Hillside in Duluth, and everybody picked up their guitars at about midnight. So Taj has got almost 4 hours of music already that he's played. And so
He's just still going.
Yeah. And I remember he had a pin that said 40 and feeling sexy. Of course, he's, built like a football player. Finally, about 3:30. Yeah. About 3:30 in the morning, I said, Taj, you win. I got to go to the hotel and go to sleep. But that guy, it was literally 8 hours of music, the great Taj Mahal. And
wow.
Yeah, and he's just been doing some shows with Van Morrison, and I can't imagine a better evening of music than seeing those two.
Yeah, that'd be a good deal. Yeah, I remember when I met him, I remember he shook my hand backstage, and he was just towering over me. He's over 6 foot. I don't know how big he is. But he just kind of wrapped my hand in his enormous hand. I was like, it was pretty intimidating, actually.
Oh yeah, he's a big guy. I heard a great story that Maria Muldaur told me. I had gotten to know Maria. I was booking a blues club in Minneapolis and booked Maria a couple times. Fell in love with her road manager, which was fun for a while. And anyway, she told me this great story of how when she was in Greenwich Village, when Gertie's Folk City was really starting to happen in the early 60s, she was there one night with Bob Dylan. We're talking 1962 or so, maybe right around that time. And there was this big black guy that came in with a banjo, and he came in and he asked somebody, where can I go tune up? And they said downstairs. And so he starts doing his thing downstairs and blowing Bob Dylan's and Maria Muldaur's mind at how good he was. Even back then, he was probably 20 years old, and so he gets done warming up, and Dylan goes, "What's your name?" He goes, Taj Mahal. And Taj goes to Bob, you think I'm going to be all right? And Dylan goes, you're going to do just fine, Mr. Mahal.
That's funny.
Yeah,
It'd
God.
be nice. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice to have Dylan's blessing?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Now, you also did something, was it the Wyoming Symphony?
Oh, yeah. At the time, I had a trio, and we just opened for them. We didn't play with the symphony. We just opened for them.
Okay.
Which is a pretty odd combination, a bluegrass band open for the symphony, but it's Wyoming,
Right. Well, they love you out there. I was reading some of your press, and they consider you kind of a Wyoming treasure. So we're happy to have you in Minneapolis this weekend. How many nights a year, Jalen, are you on the road?
Well, let's see. In recent years, the last probably 4 or 5 years, I have stopped touring in the winter. I work 6 months out of the year, the warm months, and work pretty dang hard during that time because I try to make my whole living in 6 months. So it's full blast for 6 months. I don't really know how many gigs I do, but I got really tired of, as you know, up in Minneapolis, man, the winter's harsh in these northern climes. And I got really tired of trying to travel in blizzards and loading gear in 20 below zero and wind. And even if I made it to the gig without dying, my crowd is smarter than me and just stayed home.
Yeah, right.
And so finally I was like, I'm just going to go south for the winter and work 6 months, which has worked out really wonderfully because being gone also helps build up a little demand to see you if you're not playing year round, So I think one of the most important things you can do as your own agent is not overplay yourself in any one place. So it's nice to lay low for 6 months.
If this might put the fear of God in you in terms of playing in cold weather, Jalen, I did a gig up in Ely, Minnesota. I believe it was January, February 1997. And that was the night Ely, actually the neighboring town of Tower, I was playing in Ely that night, broke the 100-year record for cold. It was 60 below without a wind chill.
Good Lord. I've never experienced that kind of cold.
It was unbelievable.
40 below.
They were, the news came up. They were pounding frozen bananas through 2x4s, and it was just insane. Now, the great thing about the crowd that night, Jalen, once they got there, they didn't want to go home. So we were there till, God, I think they finally kicked us out at about 2:30 in the morning. So even if I sucked, they really had no need to leave.
Well, either listen to this lousy musician or die.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I totally understand. Well, tell us some of because I've flown out to New York and played Austin and LA and around the country in Boston, but I've never really figured out how to get on the road and tour. I tried it with my band. It's tough enough making a living as a solo artist, but traveling with the band and paying 2 or 3 other people, hotel rooms and the such, it's damn near impossible. So tell us about some of your horror stories on the road. Let's let folks know exactly what it's like out there.
Let's see, horror stories. Let's see. The band houses can be...
let's talk about that.
Nowadays I'm fairly fortunate. Mostly I just stay in hotels and people take pretty good care of me, But in the olden days on the road, you're just lucky to have running water and, a heater to curl up beside on the floor. I remember a band house somewhere in Iowa that didn't actually have glass in the windows. It had a mattress leaned up against an open window. which that was pretty low rent. And so, yeah, I mean, early on, I think I paid my dues. I cut my teeth, you know, just suffering through it, but it was all so much fun, you know.
Yeah.
And in the old days, when I used to hire on as a side guy, just a guitar hand with touring bands, sometimes their buses would be really a pain in the butt. Like, you know, the tour buses look all glamorous and everything, but when one of them things break down, which they do a lot, like we sat in I think it was called Laguna, New Mexico, for over a week.
Wow.
It was a town of like 100. I feel like it was like 100 people or something. But we were living in our tour bus on Main Street, broken down, waiting for parts. And the town looked at us like aliens had landed. Like, who are these people just living on the street in a bus for all this time?
Oh, man.
But, yeah, it was just... Yeah, it was a lot harder in the old days for me. It's easier now, but...
What kind of ride? You got a van, or what do you drive around in?
Oh, I'm in one of those high top, those modern kind of. I'm in a Ram ProMaster, which is something like the Sprinter vans, you know.
Okay.
Those big square things, and I got it built out with a green room to hang out in, and a bed over the top of the gear in the back, and it's real nice. It's the 13th van I've built out in this since I've been doing this.
Well, good for you. We've got Jalan Crossland on. He's at Crooners on October 1st. Let's listen to his song, Joanne. We'll come back for the third set, talk about that and more with Mr. Jalan Crossland on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
Okay, here we go then.
Skyline sinks low into the nighttime. Grew up on this bluegrass, went singing in the hills. But I'm leaving in the morning, I got an itching for that black tar. Got my things together now, goodbye. And I'm looking for a lady who wants to ride shotgun. Looking for a lady willing to hear my lies. Joanne, understand these words that I'm saying. Joanne, understand, you gotta open up your eyes. And I recall the old Missouri mansion where everyone was dancing. That banjo player really got me high. I never learned to please her, just learned I didn't need her. Missouri ain't no place for me to die. And I'm looking for a lady who wants to ride shotgun. Looking for a lady willing to hear my lies. Joanne, understand these words that I'm saying. Joanne, understand, you gotta open up your eyes.
You know, if those ladies are singing, you're listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. My guest for the whole show tonight, a really great musician I just got turned on to. Very excited to hear a musician with this caliber, a guy named Jalan Crossland. Jalan, tell us a little bit about that last song, Joanne, we heard when we went on the last set.
Joanne, that was written by another fella named Steve. I think his last name was Peterson. He wrote it in the 70s for the Cache Valley Drifters, which is a bluegrass band out of California. And I've only heard their version of it and always liked it, so I just covered it and worked up a fingerstyle guitar version of it.
Well, your fingerstyle guitar playing is really really unique. Now, do you use, I was just trying to figure it out from watching the videos. Do you use all three fingers with the thumb when you're playing? Or do you I was noticing a lot of thumb with just one finger, which is like how Doc
the finger style?
Yeah.
Oh, on my picking hand, I use all five.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of times the pinky's just anchored on the guitar, but when I'm doing arpeggio rolls and stuff, you use all five of them. I mean, if they're there, might as well use them.
Did you have any formal training, or is it all basically put the record on and speed it up and slow it down, learn the songs?
Yeah, that's it. Never had the fortune of any formal training. Just stealing what I liked from everybody, a little bit here, a little bit there, learning solos off records like I'm sure you did. And it's funny, back in the day, I did learn off vinyl records, which is kind of tricky, trying to rewind a vinyl record 15 times to a certain spot.
Oh, yeah. Guitarists of a certain age have no idea what generations of guitarists went through, or musicians in general, learning solos and songs off records. I've got probably one Leo Kottke record, every one he's put out, that's in really good shape, and the rest of his early ones are just beat to hell. Because I just, you learn the lick, you stop the record, did I get the riff? And by the time you learn the song, the record's completely damaged. But it worked out well for me. So,
yeah.
Who do you, when you're on the road or when you're home, who do you listen to now? What kinds of music?
I generally don't listen to music that's in my genre anymore. I think it's mostly just because I play it all the time. When I'm on my own at home, cruising around listening to music or whatever, I like to go to other places. So listen to stuff across the board. I mean, listen to a lot. I still listen to old rock and metal. Let's see, like the bands I was talking earlier. I still like listening to those guys. Actually, next weekend going out and seeing Iron Maiden and Metallica and a few other big metal festival out in Palm Springs next week I'm going to. So still like listening to all that, but also I don't know, I like listening to spacey zone out music depending on what you're up to, 01 and I also really like I listen to a lot of Latin music. I like Latin music a lot. Latin jazz and
well, hey, here's the here's the title for your next song or record: Headbanger at Heart.
Yeah, I'm definitely never lost the headbanger. It's still just a rocker.
The ones that was never my thing, but one band. Although I've seen. I saw one of, I think, Metallica's first shows with Wasp, and there was one other band at First Avenue back in the day, and I could dig, I could dig that music on certain levels where it's not necessarily connecting with me emotionally, but I can dig it for other reasons. But the one band that I always really got a kick out of that I really wish I would have seen live was AC/DC.
Yeah, actually, they're on that bill in California I'm going to next week.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen it before, and I'm excited to have opportunity to. I hope they still have their Brian Johnson, I think his name is.
Yeah.
I hope he's still singing for them. I know he has dropped out and come back in, but I hope he's there.
Wow. So that sounds like that's going to be a fun weekend for you.
Yeah.
Well, I saw it too when I was reading your promo. You've got a quote from Nikki Sixx of all people.
Yeah, for my genre. That's kind of an odd standout quote. Yeah, and I was a fan of Motley Crue's, man, for certainly their first two albums. And then, you know, there's a lot of them old bands I like their first two albums or whatever, and then I kind of jumped ship. But yeah, Nikki Sixx saw me at a show at the Jackson Center for the Arts in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and a friend of mine who runs a recording studio said that he was standing back with his wife and told her that quote, and so he snagged that quote for me for my
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that's it doesn't get any more cross genre than that. That's fabulous. What so what does the rest of the year look like for you? What were you playing after you play Crooners in Fridley?
I'm starting to wind down. Right now I got 6 gigs left for the year. After Crooners, I'm going to run down and do a show in Laramie, Wyoming, and then down in Fort Collins, Colorado. And then that's it. And me and my gal are going to South America and Mexico for the winter.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, sounds like you've kind of you're kind of getting it all figured out where you can make a living playing music, but also have enough time and hopefully money to enjoy life as well, so the music industry doesn't totally beat you into the ground.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I have a pretty comfortable, happy way of it. It's a good work hard all summer while it's nice, and then go south all winter, and it's pretty good arrangement.
What? God, I'm just. So what are you doing on this tour? Are these mostly solo shows? Are you opening up or having any openers for you?
Let's see. I mean, as far as my performances, they're all solo now. I had a band for 12 years, and I was playing solo the whole time with that band as well. But my bass player died a few years ago, and so I've been straight solo ever since. And as far as opening acts, I do have some opening acts on some of the bills. I think like 1 or 2 on a couple of the bills, but hopefully they're solo guys.
Right.
Kind of hard to be the headliner when you got a band opening for you.
Have you ever? I'd love to help you out if you ever need a gig in Duluth. Let me know. It's only a couple hours from the cities, and I think your music will go very well up here. Have you ever bumped into a guy named Charlie Parr?
Yeah, I know Charlie. We've played together before on a festival bill, and and I've seen him play before. He's great.
Charlie's great. You know, he came out of Duluth. I like to brag that I gave him his first gig. I had an open stage at a club in northeast Minneapolis called Maze-Lax, and I had $150, $200 to throw around and a bunch of musicians to play and get him burgers and beers. And Charlie would come down from Duluth a couple times a month to play. And back then he looked like a 9th grade geography teacher. And he played this national steel, and he just blew my mind. So I said, man, and I'd always give Charlie more money because he needed gas money because he drove from Duluth. But yeah, I've been watching his career. He's got a book out. We're doing a book event on October 14th. So I'm looking to rehook up with Charlie. But when I heard you, I thought, yeah, this guy's got to bump into Charlie at some point. Because it's, you know, in a way, you two are kind of in the same world, you know.
Yeah, it's a solo Americana thing. I like Charlie a lot because he's a solo guy, but he's so upbeat. He has a lot of energy in his playing.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of solo guys, singer-songwriters can be kind of slow and depressing,
Right.
And I appreciate about Charlie Parr how he's lively, I like that.
We love Charlie. Well, and we're starting to love Jalan Crossland, my guest for the whole show. Have a great time October 1st at Crooners. We're going to go out with a song I know they love in your home state of Wyoming. Great Atomic Power by Jalan Crossland. Jalan, good luck for the rest of the tour. I really look forward to meeting you in person one of these days. And everybody out there in the listening audience, check out jalancrossland.com. Get some music and check him out. Been a very enjoyable conversation, Jalan. Best of luck.
Yeah, Paul. Thanks for having me on, Paul. It's been great talking with you.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This show was produced by Paul Metsa, engineered by Brett Johnson. We'd like to thank our guest, Jalan Crossland. The book I wrote with Rick Shevchik called Blood in the Tracks, the Minnesota musicians behind Dylan's masterpiece, is at finer bookstores and record stores everywhere. You can also find my book, Alphabet Jazz, at the Electric Fetus, along with Blood in the Tracks. Hope everybody's enjoying the fall. And remember, like my dad used to tell me, be kind and make someone happy.
Someday we'll hide